Freedom Island. Okay, I did have to give up the last time because I was scared to park. I wouldn't admit it, but I was scared to park somewhere else and get in trouble again. 3 times I got told to move, and I didn't want to take a chance that the 4th time would be a police officer or something like that. And my plan wasn't going very good. So I did end up just coming back, and at least I made beanie weenies and hot dogs cut up in it for extra weenies, because they don't really, when it says beanie weenies, there's not very many weenies in it. So I cut some hot dogs up in it, and we had some Kraft macaroni and cheese and beanie weenies and hot dogs, and at least I made supper. So that was good. And now I think it's going to be better because I have the sign. Evandro kept trying to say magnetic to me because I had forgot that part of the idea when we were talking about me staying in the van, which he's not crazy about, but me staying in the van for a couple nights while his relatives is here, so they won't know that him and me are sharing this house of Vivian's while I figure out what I'm doing about my uncle and all that. I forgot that part of the plan was we would get a magnetic sign made and put it on the van door because that would make it look more official. And then we had quite a go-round because he kept trying to tell me, but I couldn't understand what he was saying. His English is real good, but he has certain sounds and certain words that hang him up because it's not something they say where he grew up. And so what he was trying to say was magnetic, but I think he was nervous because he couldn't say it, so he kept rushing it through, and all I heard was the m and then sign, sign like that. And I thought, is he talking in Spanish or French or something like that? And I didn't even realize it was an English word. So I went on the computer. I said, just a minute. And I went on the computer and I went on Google and I put Spanish, English, because I thought he can speak French and he can speak several things, but I thought it was probably a Spanish word. So I put Spanish word, English word, and then I put search. And then they have a thing. If you put a Spanish word in, if you know how to spell it, then you can find out what the English word is. But I didn't know how to spell because he said, I can't even do it, but it was like, sa or something. And I was like, what? So I couldn't figure out what it was. But then I thought, you know what I'll do is I'll put in English, magnetic, and then it'll say Spanish, and I could see it had one of them like speakers with the lines that come out, which means it talks. So I thought they'll say what the Spanish word is for magnetic, and then I will know if it's the same word. See? Brains. I have all of them in my family, and that's only still 3 pieces of brain that's for about 100 people, but at least I got this many. Well, it turns out the Spanish word for magnetic is magnetico. Alright, so that wasn't it. So I tried French and that wasn't it. And then I didn't know how to search anymore. So I came back in and I said, Evandro, we're both getting frustrated. Can you draw a picture? I'm sorry, but I can't understand you. I know I'm not the smartest one, but I can't understand you. And so then he just took a pen, and then on the back of the grocery list, he just drew a little car, and then he made the sign. And I said, the magnetic sign. And then he just looked at me like, finally. And I looked at him like, finally. And I said, we had better carry a pen and a paper around with us everywhere we go, you know it? And he said, Probably. So that's what he was talking about, the magnetic sign. And you can get it done at the place where, like, they make, you can photocopy, like if you got an electric bill or something, like you can go in there and make a copy of your bill, or you can fax, or you can get things printed, like t-shirts and stuff like that, and they can make you a magnetic sign. So that's what we got made. And we were arguing then, when we were walking over there, about what the sign would say. And I said it should say General Services, because then that could be the city, that could be a building, that could be a healthcare place, like General Hospital. It could be anything. And he said that we should just have it say services, then we could use it later for the church van. And I said, all right. But then I said, you know what, you can cut those magnetic signs, you can cut them with scissors. And he said, cut off the general? And I said, exactly. We cut off the general, and then we both get what we want. What do you think? And he put out his hand, and he made like a funny face, like a movie, like shake hands. And so we shook hands, and two people that came out of the copy shop went around us because they thought we were crazy or on drugs, but I don't care. So we went in and we got a sign that said General Services, and I do think that it will help. I think it will make it easier. We had a little moment where we were talking at the counter, so we did get a sign that said General Services, and that was good, that we could figure out how to solve a problem together. That was good. We had one more thing at the counter because him and I went back and forth about whether we needed a sign for each door. And he just wanted to get the one. And I thought if we were getting them made, we should get one for each side. And I could tell he was trying to save money. And of course, I always want to save money. And then I realized he thought he was going to have to pay for it. He felt like he caused the problem because he was staying in Vivian's house. And if he wasn't staying in Vivian's house, if he was willing to stay in the scary house, which I think he couldn't even be in anymore because I don't think he paid any more rent on it now that I think about it. But he felt like it was his fault that he couldn't stay in the scary house that he had moved into, and he had to come back to Vivian's house. And he didn't know I was going to come up and make arrangements with Vivian to stay there. And she didn't know he was still there. So he felt guilty, like it was my problem that I had to stay outside in the van, because obviously he couldn't stay out of the house and then have his family come and check on him, and he wasn't at that house. It would all just be worse, because then they'd think something happened to him because he doesn't have his green card or anything, and they would be afraid that something nice got him or something like that. So, of course, I had to be the one that had to go somewhere, and we can't afford for me to stay somewhere else, and that's why I had to sleep in the van for a couple nights. And that made him feel bad because he thinks the neighborhood's not very safe, even though it's a very safe van and it extra security and it locks really good. And I told him I have PTSD and I'll jump out and run away if I hear the slightest sound. I'm used to that from where I grew up. I wouldn't have no problem getting away. But he felt bad. And then he felt like he ought to at least pay for the sign, but he couldn't really afford to pay anything, but he was going to try to pay for the one. And I said, no, I'll pay for the signs. And then he looked worried, and I said, it's for the church, ain't it? Because we're just going to use it for a little bit for this stay away thing, but this will be a church thing. And he said, okay, nervously, kind of like, what? And I said, I'll take it off on my taxes. And then we started laughing, and then it made it better. So now we're settled down. I'm going to let the church have the signs. I don't file my taxes. I I don't have no taxes to pay. I don't make no money. I get my groceries from the government. But anyways, and I'm sure you're probably supposed to write that down and send that in. I'll get right on that. Anyways, so we did get the signs made, and that, I think, is going to make it a lot better. Well, I don't know if it was the sign or whether it's just that I got smarter, but I figured out that I should come over here to this center area where they have 2 different social work things that are about half open. There's not always somebody here all the time, but there is 2 buildings. One was a school building, and then one was like some overflow trailers that they put when the school was too full, that they put out in the lot. And they have in here, the big building is has more windows that opens up, and that's more for the medical and people that have got dangerous type situations or whatever. And then these trailers over here, one of them has emergency food boxes and some stuff that people can get, and the other one is where they sign up to get things, and they go in to talk to the person to figure out if they need to get more, like something with their body, or if they need care for their children and so on. And then the other building is where they, the other trailers where they get the food. So they have a person that is in the one trailer, and there's just people going in and out and standing around talking, and they're getting rides, or they're walking, or they're doing whatever. And there is police officers and stuff around, a couple of them, to keep an eye on people going in and out. But instead of it being a problem for me, it seems like it's working out for me. There's so much in and out around here that it don't make any difference that I'm here. There's so many people getting a shuttle ride, or somebody getting dropped off, or however they're getting to this place, and then there's kids that's coming and going and so on, social workers is coming and going and so on, and the trucks that bring the food boxes and all that stuff come and go, and there's just enough carrying on. And then once in a while there's an ambulance or a police car has to come and straighten things out a little bit and all that. So there's enough come and go around here that with the van and me in the vest and having my drink and my snack and my clipboard, which really people would be doing it more on a smartphone now, but I have a smartphone which I'm just looking at. But of course the best thing about this parking space is that I can see the work release center really good, and I can see it in the rear view mirror. This van has an awesome rear view mirror. I don't know if it comes standard in it. I don't think so. I think maybe because it has the wheelchair ramp added on in the back and so on, and maybe they got a special mirror so they could see, when people are getting on or getting off and using the ramp and all that. Of course, you would need to see good in the back. So this mirror is more, what do you call that? Wait a minute. Concave is in. So convex. So it curves out, but it's also kind of got facets. Like it's almost like, in the old time movies, sometimes a woman goes into a dress store or something like that, and she's got one of those triple mirrors where she sees herself from the front, and then there's one on the left and the right. Or sometimes in the same thing in old movies, sometimes a man's getting fitted for a suit at the tailor, and he'll stand in front of one of them mirrors that's got 3 panels. Well, this rear view mirror is kind of like that. It's bent out, curved out, convex anyway, and then it's got an extra like wing on each side. And then there's also side mirrors, and then the side mirrors have a little inset mirror, that you can kind of slide around at the bottom with an extra area that you can see. So between my rear view mirror that's up above the windshield, and then 2 side mirrors, and then an extra little magnifying mirrors at the bottom, if I park in space C17, D17, D18, or sometimes kind of over in the E area, but then there's kind of a fence that gets in the way a little bit. But if I get one of these right in here, and I get settled down and get the seats adjusted right and everything, I don't even have to strain my neck or nothing, and I can see in that convex mirror, and I can see what's going on at the Work Release Center, which the crazy guys call Freedom Island, because they're going to have all that freedom, right? So I love that, because I don't really want my face, even though I'm kind of in not quite disguise, but I got my uniform kind of thing on, blue vest and white shirt, and then I got my van that says General Services, with the panel on the door and everything. And I don't know that Boyce or some of his people that he knows would have no way of knowing for sure that I'm up here in Detroit, like Lauren wouldn't tell. And she wouldn't tell my brother, because my brother would tell Boyce maybe. So I don't think, even though I've been scared, that Uncle Boyce or his minions would know that I was up here. I've been scared of that, but I don't think it's real. So I think I'm good, because for one thing, they just wouldn't expect me to be sitting up here in a van that says General Services with a uniform on, spying on them. I just don't think they would think that was my personality. It really was not, until I started finding out all the stuff Boyce was doing. It was, what I did was I stayed at home and took care of the little ones, and I went to NA, and, I did my self stuff that I got to do to get myself together, and that was about it. So this is a whole new, different way I'm acting, and I don't think he would expect it of me, and he doesn't have any information about it. But as I've always thought, since I've been up here thinking about them, they're suspicious as hell, and I would be too. If I was up to no good, I would be suspicious as hell. So I got to be careful. Where I was trying to go with this, I like it better than see what's going on in the rear view mirror, and that way they only see the back of my head, even though I don't think, like I was saying, that they could tell it's me. It just feels more safer, and also I can write, I can kind of put the clipboard up on the dashboard or prop it up there, and then I can write down what I see and make my notes. And then it also has that double benefit of it looks like I'm being a caseworker, or making my schedule to take my clients around for social work. So it's just a win-win for me.